It's Friday night in the A, and you know what that means. Kelly Price and Tori McElhaney coming at you on Rise Up Tonight, presented by AT&T.
We are back like we never left, back in the friendly confines of Atlanta and a chilly studio, which is like Antarctica compared to where we were this time last week in South Florida.
I'm not lying to you when I say I've never been happier to be back in the studio with you.
It's definitely nicer in here. Well, one preseason game is in the books, and the first one at home just under 24 hours away now. And yes, we will see the starters this week. So who are Tori and I going to be watching? Let's huddle up about it, y'all.
Let's huddle up with Kelly and Tori on the world of Falcons football.
I think number one on a lot of Falcons fans' list here is going to be this revamped defensive front. Calais Campbell even said this week he thinks this unit can be, quote, scary. And we've definitely seen them push in the pocket, creating pressure during joint practices and throughout training camp. On paper, this unit is improved, but I think we all want to see what it looks like on the field.
Yeah, what's crazy is that we've been talking about this unit so much this offseason, about the money and the resources that have been pumped into this defensive front, but we haven't seen this group go 100% yet. We haven't seen David Onyemata line up with Grady Jarrett. We haven't seen Calais Campbell or Bud Dupree go after a quarterback with their ears pinned back. Against the Bengals on Friday, I'm hoping that we will.
And our guy Tyler Algier set a record last year for most rushing yards by a rookie running back, franchise record 1,035. The Falcons had a top 5, top 3 run game consistently last season, and then they draft an electric running back, number 8 overall. So the running back room and how this unit propels this offense forward is really fascinating to me. We won't see anything crazy on Friday night, of course, but how excited are you to really just see that in a game setting?
Very. And look, we know that Arthur Smith confirmed that Cordell Patterson will be out for a couple weeks with a soft tissue injury, but I don't think I'm alone in saying that he's not the main attraction. And I'm so sorry, CP, for saying that, but it's Bijan Robinson. But I will say pump the brakes before you get too excited, because there's no way Arthur Smith is going to unleash Bijan in a preseason game. We may see a glimpse of him, but the real show will be in week 1.
Yeah, definitely. But the run game won't get anywhere without the guys up front, and second-round pick Matthew Bergeron about to get his first taste of NFL action after being thrust into the left guard spot after Matt Hennessy's injury. I talked to Jake Matthews this week about how this preseason really is important for the O-line specifically to build chemistry and trust before the games really start counting. What are you going to be watching with this group?
Yeah, it has to be Matthew Bergeron, right? I mean, this is the shiny new toy on the offensive line, a group that returns 4 of 5 starters from last year. There may be no one who needs the preseason reps quite like that of Matthew Bergeron. I think people forget that this is a kid who hadn't played inside at guard until a couple reps at the Senior Bowl in January.
Right.
So he has so much learning and growing to do at the position, but the best way to learn is to do.
Absolutely. Well, the Falcons brought their talents to Miami last week, and they also brought some fire fits. We're walking in, presented by Wells Fargo. We start with Younghoe Koo, who understood the assignment. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed with the lack of Miami flair in this week's fits, but you know what? Koo is always reliable. We love the floral pattern here with the white pants and immaculate Miami vibe.
You know, you say Younghoe Koo's reliable. I said he's nothing if not consistent. Fits included.
Continuing with the fun South Florida fits. Feel like some are gonna disagree with me maybe here on Jonnu Smith's, but hear me out. Would I have liked to see this paired with some jeans instead of sweatpants? Yeah, maybe. But do I respect a silk Hawaiian shirt with a party print? Also, yes. And to top it all off, the Prada bucket hat, I mean, it is a vibe, Tori.
Here's the thing. There's a lot happening here, but it works. And look, it also makes sense for the Miami theme. I think I see some tiny umbrellas and some limes on that shirt.
And we love that for Jonnu. Next up, Josh Ali with the throwback Dion jersey. I love how this feels like very work appropriate, very business, but also very much a nod to Dirty Bird history, right? When you think about Josh Ali having spent most of his rookie year last season on the practice squad, I like the confidence that it projects too.
I like that too, because something that I've recently found out is there are actually a lot of guys on this current Falcons team who grew up Falcons fans. I'm not saying that that's Josh Ali because he was a Miami kid, but maybe he wanted to rep some history of his new team back in his hometown.
I do love that. Finally, not sure how I feel about Kyle Pitts wearing a full-on beret. Do we like this? I do like he went all black with everything else to kind of accentuate it in the statement Louis glasses, but what do we think here?
Okay, I've spoken to Kyle at length about this.
Okay, good. We need clarification.
Yes, it's not a beret, it's a Kangol, and I think it's his new favorite accessory. It may make a few appearances this season if I had to guess. And for me, it's kind of giving 80s LL Cool J vibes, which honestly I love. Yeah.
Good call. All right, so we'll let it slide for now, Kyle. We'll see what he does in the future with that. All right, KP dancing to the beat of his own drum there got us thinking, what music do some of these guys listen to that maybe their teammates wouldn't expect expect? That's next in our question of the week.
Okay, well, I'm from Montana, so I think people pin me as country, which is typically what I listen to.
EDM.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Always been into it?
Always been into it.
I like Van Halen. Yeah, probably because my dad listened to it, so a little nostalgia with it.
I would probably say jazz or something like that, but then now that I'm like the oldest player, you know, on the defense in the NFL, I think some guys like, he's so old he probably likes jazz.
Probably gospel.
Yeah?
Yeah, probably gospel. Classical. I like classical music just because my family, we all played classical instruments in the orchestra growing up, and it just stuck with me.
DMX has helped me win football games and play really good football. You know, he helps me get to that killer you have to be good at this game.
Okay, so the question was, what are you not supposed to be listening to? What does no one expect that you're listening to? But all of those I feel like were spot on. Like, Calais listening to jazz.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what did Michael Scott say? Basketball's like jazz. He's probably like football's like jazz a little bit.
Yeah, Calais listening to jazz, least surprising thing I have seen today. All right, coming up later in the show, Michael the Burner Turner joins us to talk about the Young Guns carrying the ground game legacy here in Atlanta. Don't miss that conversation just ahead.
Plus, a couple Falcons helped Grady Jarrett's annual charity event get in full swing. That story is coming up next on Rise Up Tonight.
Rise Up Tonight is presented by AT&T and brought to you by the Georgia Lottery. Today could be the day. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. And Truist, when you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. It's time to Rise Up Atlanta. Kelly and Tori are back on your home for Falcons football. Fox 5 Atlanta.
Grady Jarrett has been a force on the field for the Falcons for years now, but he's also been a steady presence in the community he plays in and that raised him. Earlier this offseason, he held his 8th annual Grady Gives Weekend as we rise up for Atlanta, brought to you by Truist.
This is what it's all about, and it's about using your platform to make other people's lives better.
The Grady Gives Weekend events raised money and supported literacy awareness, anti-bullying endeavors, pediatric cancer research, and efforts to help young adults find their purpose in life. It all started with Jarrett's 8th annual Celebrity Topgolf Tournament in Beaufort. Falcons like Tyler Algier, AJ Terrell, among others, were there to support. Also that weekend, Rockdale High School hosted the first ever Grady Jarrett Combine, free for high school students, as well as his 8th annual youth football camp. And speaking of Grady Jarrett, he said that Ryan Nielsen has been giving him some of the best coaching he's ever had. We've heard nothing but great things about the new defensive coordinator, and for me, it's been really cool to see like how hands-on and intense, passionate he is with this group, if you want to use those words. You wrote a story this week about how the two words he's really drilled into this defense are attack and aggressive. What do you think that means for the Falcons?
Well, first off, the running joke is that when these Falcons defenders lay their heads down on their pillows at night, that they can hear the words attack and aggressive bouncing around in their heads. And that's because these words are everywhere. They're spoken, they're written on whiteboards in meeting rooms. These two words are the foundation of what this defense wants to be, and it's something that has permeated from Nielsen to the entire unit.
I think that's going to be big for this unit going forward. All right, still to come for the Ryan Nielsen stories. Stay for the hot takes. We've got them hot and ready to end the show later on.
And coming up next, we catch up with Falcons legend Michael Turner and get his thoughts on these 2023 Falcons.
Welcome back to Rise Up Tonight. Let's head in the nest with Kelly, Tori, and this week's special guest, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz.
Here's Turner. Michael Turner won't go down. Touchdown, Atlanta.
We're so excited to have in the nest Michael Turner. You were here from 2008 to 2012. You're a Pro Bowler while you're here, All-Pro, all these things. Obviously you were a big Falcons running back for quite some time here. Everyone remembers you pounding the rock. How excited are you that the Falcons are kind of getting back to pounding the rock here?
Oh man, very excited. I'm ready to see Bijan out there, even Algier, and a little bit of Patterson there, sprinkled it there. I'm very excited what they're going to do this year.
We're going to talk about the three-headed monster, as everybody's calling him. But Let's start with Tyler Algier. Had such a out of the blue almost rookie year.
Right.
What did you think of not only what he did in year one, but his running style and what stood out to you?
I love his running style. You know, he's a little physical back. You know, I just love the way the tenacity he had out there. And I've seen him when he was at BYU. So when they drafted him, I was like, that might be a good fit for the Falcons and Arthur Smith. So, and he showed up last year, and he did really well. And hopefully he can just continue to grow, and along with the other guys too. So.
It's funny because you talk about Arthur Smith, him kind of fitting what Arthur Smith wants to do, but Arthur Smith has said time and time again that Tyler Algier is somebody who is harder to tackle as the game goes on. Is that something that you see from him?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was saying. So I was kind of like that too, you know, but I was much bigger than Tyler.
Kelly and I like to joke that he's our little bowling ball.
You know, little ball, but yeah, he's a small package, but like, don't take him lightly because he packs a punch. Yeah.
And maybe the lightning to his thunder is going to be, Bijan Robinson. You mentioned him. What have you seen so far? I know it's still really early on here in camp, but what have you seen from him as far as what he could bring to this offense?
I just like his skill set that he brings to the offense. A guy can motion out the backfield, line up at wide receiver, run some good routes. I wasn't a route runner, but I played with a little Daniel Tomlinson, so I can see the similarities there, and people like to compare the two, and I can see it, and hopefully if he just is half as good as LT was, that was going to be in good shape.
That's a good comparison.
I know, I love that. Now, I want to ask you, because, out at practice, you're seeing this coaching staff with this team. What are your early impressions of Arthur Smith and kind of what he has already established here in terms of a culture?
I'm sensing more determination this year. I think last year, we let some wins get away. And I think that's still bugging him a little bit, and he wants to get back out there and prove that this team is really better than what it was last year. And then the guys are going out there and fighting, and everybody got the Saints picked to win the division. I don't know why, but
because that's what they do.
But the Falcons are going to be right there, and I'm not going to be surprised if they win the division again.
I agree. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, especially with the division being the way that it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you chose to come here in free agency in 2008. There were a couple guys this year, some veterans who chose to come to Atlanta this offseason. Jesse Bates, Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree, some of these guys that we're already seeing making impacts in training camp. What would be kind of your advice to those guys going into this season?
Just be leaders. All those guys got some winning seasons behind them under their belt, and you got a young defense and mixing with those veterans. I think it's going to be a great mix of young and old, and that's what we had too when we was playing, and that helps a lot. You can't just all be young, you need some vets out there, some veteran leadership, and I trust those guys. They're going to do well.
And speaking of kind of the draft strategy, obviously they take a running back this year.
Offensive weapon.
What everyone will end up seeing, but there was a lot of debate around that pick because of the position of running back, and there's been kind of a debate about the devaluation of the running back this offseason. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Which part? The devaluation of a running back? Oh man!
Talk about it.
I know. I hate it because it's such a beautiful position now.
Right.
It used to be the coolest position to play. Now everybody wants to play quarterback and things like that. But whatever. Being a running back is still special, and you need a good one to win football games. It's a lot of things that we can bring to the table that's getting overlooked now, and hopefully that thing's changing with Bijan being dynamic as he is. To see how special you can pick a running back, still top 10, whatever, and be good.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I kind of want to go back to your playing days. Do you have a favorite memory or a moment that you kind of look back on and you're like, that was the quintessential Atlanta Falcons moment for me?
Oh man.
I know it's hard. It's always hard to pick like one moment over the course of years.
Because when I came in, nobody was expecting anything from us. But I guess that first game, I had to, broke a record the first game. Coming out the gate, Matt Ryan, first throw was a touchdown. Everything was just magical that game, and so I was like, all right, we might have something special here.
Yeah.
And the good thing we did, we kept it rolling.
Yeah, I think a lot of Falcons fans remember that.
Yeah. Top of mind.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, we talked about the division a little bit and the Saints and what you think the Falcons can maybe do in this division, but do you think the Falcons can be a playoff team? And if they can, if they make some noise, what do they need to do to get to that point?
Yeah, NFC is wide open. So they off the top, they're right there to be in the playoffs. They won 8-9 games last year. if they just stay healthy, and they'll be really good. And like I said, I'm not going to be shocked if they win the division. And with the NFC, man, everything's wide open. I think the sky's the limit for the Falcons.
Do you have, I know we've been talking about the running backs a lot, but is there a specific player on this team that you're kind of looking forward to seeing kind of have maybe even a breakout year?
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to see Tyler's second year.
There we go.
And then I'm going to see what Bijan brings to the table. And I want to see a healthy Kyle Pitts, and go from there.
I think you're speaking the language of a lot of these fans. I know for a fact everybody is so excited to see Kyle back out there.
Yeah.
So he's a big deal.
He's a big deal. He's a big weapon, big target. Him with Drake, man, I'm just saying, we don't know what the Falcons going to do. There's a lot of weapons out there, a lot of names we throwing out there. So I hope everybody steps up and makes some big plays out there.
And yet one name we haven't talked about is Desmond Ridder.
Under the radar Ridder.
I like that.
Maybe we'll use that.
Yeah, but hopefully he matures more. Every time I see him talking in interviews, he sounds like a natural leader.
Right.
And so we played good football in Cincinnati. Last year, we didn't throw the ball as much, so hopefully we can get some more passes out of him and see what he can do as a quarterback. And I think he's got all the capabilities to do that.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping by. Anyone who wants to catch the full conversation, head to fox5atlanta.com. We'll post the full thing with Michael Turner on there, and we'll be right back on Rise Up Tonight.
Hey Atlanta, this is Head Crack talking, and you watching Rise Up Tonight, presented by AT&T.
It's like I don't get caught up in whatever narrative is after 4 weeks of the daily narratives. You can almost write some of these narratives and live and die every week by the narratives because it sets up bad, narratives. So you can frame the narrative, you can write narratives. Those are easy narratives.
We have arrived at Arthur Smith's favorite part of the show. Zach Harrison, we are still waiting for you to get that sack, buddy.
There were 5 sacks last week, and not a single one came from Zach Harrison, so I am upset.
This keeps happening to you
with
the sack
really
predictions.
Does.
All right, so last week we saw the defense really shine in Miami. This week, under the Mercedes-Benz Stadium lights, I think we're going to see the offensive starters steal the show. We've talked a bit about it, but I think about all these playmakers, right? Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Matt Collins. I could keep going here. It's been really fun to watch these guys in camp. I am genuinely pumped to see what it looks like in a game, even if it's just for one glorious drive, a quarter, whatever it looks like. And hey, if all goes well, all aboard the hype train, right?
Here's the thing. We've given a lot of love to this defense throughout this show already, so I'm going to actually stick with the offensive takes that we have going here. My hot take, let's see some John Fitzpatrick running some routes and maybe making a catch or two on Friday. Look, I know he's probably not as flashy as KP or Jonnu, but I think he has a real shot at making this 53-man roster. We know he can block thanks to his Georgia football days. Let's see if he can be a vertical threat too. Might as well try.
I like that we have the Georgia highlights in there too.
Love it. As a Georgia girl, here for it.
Something else I found interesting this week was talking to some of the Falcons vets about what they get out of playing in the preseason. A guy like A.J. Terrell, what's he getting out of Friday night? He said, especially with this new scheme, it's huge for him, and that he kind of sees the game better when he's actually playing it rather than when he's on the sideline like he was last week. Not to mention, this defense is jacked up to play after what they saw in Miami last week.
Yeah, right now we don't know much about how much or how little we'll see these starters. Arthur Smith said it'll greatly depend on the flow of the game itself. He's actually more concerned with the quality of reps than the quantity they'll get, but ask any of these players, and we have, they want to get out there. I think Desmond Ridder even said this week that he'd like to knock off some rust too.
And Desmond Ridder even said this week, don't tell me that the preseason doesn't matter. He made it clear the preseason does matter, especially for a guy like him who's really going to need those reps. What do you think for him he's going to be looking for?
Gosh, I mean, it's just getting out there. I think he said, I'd love to get hit. I mean, he wants to go out and get hit. He said knock some rust off. He wants to go out and do that.
You'll have to see that from QB1. And for the defense, all these guys, all the reserves out there getting 5, sacks, an interception, or 2 interceptions, a pick 6. How excited are they to just get out there and be the ones doing that this week?
Gosh, I think I was talking to even Clark Phillips III, who didn't have a chance to play in the last preseason game, and he said it'll just be really nice to go out there and run around a little bit. We talk about Desmond Ridder getting hit. I think this defenders want to make a few tackles too.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for staying up late with us tonight. For Tori McElhaney, I'm Kelly Price. Have a great night. We'll see you back here Friday night at 7 for the pregame show before game number 2 here on Fox 5.